I was sitting in the hospital waiting room, wearing a soft blue gown and feeling the 4 drips slowly into my arm. The surgery was scheduled for that afternoon. My heart valve needed urgent repair. The doctors said it couldn't wait much longer. But I wasn't afraid. I had prayed. I had packed a small bag. And I had told my daughter, Camila, everything. She promised to come. Then my phone buzzed. I smiled, thinking it was her asking which room I was in. But instead, her voice came through, flat and sharp. "Mom, we canceled your surgery." I froze. For a moment, I thought I heard her wrong. "What?" I whispered. She sighed loudly, like I was being difficult. "We canceled it. We think it's for the best. You're not strong enough, and we've found a more holistic approach. It's all under control." Under control? I sat there, surrounded by the hum of machines and nurses' footsteps. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I hadn't asked her to do that. I hadn't given her permission. I was still of sound mind. I was still me. "Camila, I didn't agree to that," I said quietly. "Well, we did. You'll thank us later. Just go home and rest. We'll talk more when you get back." She hung up. I stared at the screen, shaking. My hands felt cold. I looked at the nurse walking past and raised my hand. "I need to speak to my doctor," I said. But the nurse gave me a strange look. "Your surgery's been canceled, ma'am. Your daughter called and took over all your charts this morning. She said you'd forgotten." Forgotten? I hadn't forgotten anything. I had planned this for months. It was my decision. My body. My life. But suddenly I was nobody. They discharged me 2 hours later. I didn't even know how I got home. I remember the driver helping me out of the car. I remember walking into my apartment and everything feeling off. My medicine tray was gone. My calendar was cleared. And my emergency file with all my medical records? Missing. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my hospital clothes, and stared at the wall. A message lit up on my phone. "Rest well, Mom. We'll stop by later this week. Don't worry about anything now. Red heart. Don't worry?" My chest ached. But it wasn't the heart condition. It was betrayal. Later that night, I called my doctor. I expected him to be surprised. Maybe even angry. But instead, he sounded formal. "Mrs. Duarte, your daughter has full medical proxy over your care. Signed last fall. All decisions fall to her now." "No," I said. "I never gave her that. I never signed anything." He paused. "Well, the papers we have say otherwise." I asked him to send me a copy. He agreed. But I could hear it in his voice. He thought I was confused. Old. Tired. But I wasn't. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, remembering how proud Camila was when she became a lawyer. How she used to braid my hair when she was 10. How she cried when her father died. I had held her. Promised I'd always be there. But now she was removing me. Silently. Carefully. Like a file she no longer needed. The next morning, I checked my bank app. My small savings I had built over 40 years. It didn't load. Tried again. Access denied. I called the bank. "We were told the account was compromised and frozen for your safety," the man on the phone said. "Who told you that?" I asked. "Your daughter, Miss Camila Duarte. She brought documents proving power of attorney." "Is that incorrect?" I couldn't speak. I felt something crack inside. She had planned this. Not to protect me, but to control me. And the saddest part? She thought I wouldn't notice. That I was already too far gone. But I wasn't. Not yet. I walked to the hallway closet and pulled down the old metal box where I kept all my important things. My birth certificate, the deed to my late husband's land, and a sealed envelope I had written 5 years ago. It was still there. Inside that envelope was a backup medical proxy, naming someone else. Someone I hadn't told Camila about. Someone who had always respected me, even when we disagreed. My sister, Lucia. I picked up the phone and called her. "Lucia." My voice cracked. "I think I'm in trouble." She drove 3 hours that day to reach me. When she walked in, she saw the untouched hospital bag on my bed. She saw the missing pills, the fear in my eyes, and she didn't ask questions. She hugged me first. "We'll fix this," she said. "They think I'm weak," I whispered. "Let them think," she replied. "It'll make what's coming even better." I was sitting on the kitchen floor when I found out. The old tea kettle had just finished boiling, and I was trying to make myself a cup of chamomile to calm my nerves. My hands were still shaky from the day before. The canceled surgery, the phone call from Camila, the disbelief in my doctor's voice. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. I opened my bank app. I do that every morning. Not because I'm rich, but because I like to know what's there. I like to feel safe, secure, in control. But today it was different. The app didn't open. It showed an error. I tried again. Then again. Finally, a message popped up. This account has been restricted. Please contact your bank. My stomach dropped. I had only $14 in my purse. The rest was in that account. The account I built over 42 years of working as a school secretary. I was never careless with money. Never reckless. That account was my comfort, my future, my survival. I grabbed my landline phone and called the bank right away. A woman answered. Her voice was polite, but distant. Thank you for calling. How can I help you today? Yes, my account won't open. It's saying I've been restricted. My name is Helena Duarte. She typed something. Then she hesitated. Ah, yes. That account has been frozen at the request of your power of attorney, Miss Camila Duarte. What? I felt the room tilt. My fingers gripped the edge of the table. I forced myself to speak calmly. That can't be right. She doesn't have power of attorney. I'm very sorry, ma'am. But according to the documents we have, she does. And she stated that the account activity showed signs of mental confusion, unusual spending. Unusual? I started to say. But my voice cracked. What did she mean? I wasn't spending unusually. I was paying hospital bills. I bought vitamins. A new walking cane. A gift for Lucia's granddaughter's birthday. I wasn't confused. I wasn't wasting anything. She was controlling me. Can I access my own money? I asked quietly. There was a pause. Not at this time, ma'am. Your daughter stated it's for your protection. I hung up the phone and sat there in silence. The tea had gone cold. She was cutting off my lifelines one by one. First my body, now my money. What was next? I looked around my tiny apartment, the old couch, the photos on the wall, the calendar with a little sticker on the date of my canceled surgery. Everything felt smaller now. I wasn't confused. I wasn't forgetful. I was being erased. That afternoon, Lucia came by. She brought a fresh bag of groceries, even though I told her not to. She saw the look on my face before I said a word. What happened now? She asked. She closed my bank account, I whispered. She said I was spending too much. Lucia's face turned hard. You've never been careless with money, Helena. I know. And she's doing all this in the name of love? I couldn't speak. I nodded. Lucia sat down beside me. You know this is about more than control, right? What do you mean? Camila never liked that you didn't hand everything over to her years ago. The house, the land, the stocks Jorge left behind. You always said it would be divided fairly. Because that's what's right, I said. Lucia nodded. Exactly. But Camila doesn't want right. She wants everything. And she's moving while you're weak. I felt tears in my eyes. Not just because of the money, but because she was my only daughter. The one I raised through late nights and hospital bills. I never thought she'd see me as a burden. Lucia touched my hand. We need to move fast. Before she locks you out of everything. Later that night, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was from a lawyer. Not mine, Camila's. It read, as Camila Duarte's legal representative, we are informing you that, based on your current condition and health decline, Miss Duarte has enacted emergency authority over your finances to ensure your well-being. We encourage you to focus on rest and recovery. All future decisions will be handled by your designated proxy. I crumpled the letter in my fist. My condition. I still made my own breakfast. I still paid my bills, until yesterday. I still remembered my wedding date, my mother's smile, the sound of Camila's laugh when she was 5. But none of that mattered now. Because legally, I didn't exist. I sat on my bed and opened a small wooden box. Inside were 3 things. A photo of me and Camila when she graduated. A note Jorge wrote to me before he died. Don't let anyone silence your voice. A flash drive. I had kept that flash drive for years. It held copies of all my documents, including the old medical power of attorney I signed for Lucia. And more importantly, a voice recording Camila left me years ago, when she asked for control over the family land. I know you don't trust me with money, Mom, her voice said. But one day you'll see I was right to take it, even if it means taking it without asking. At the time, I thought she was joking. Now I knew better. Lucia and I drove to her friend Raphael's house the next day. He was a retired lawyer, old but sharp. The moment I played him the recording and showed him the signed document naming Lucia as my true medical proxy, he raised his eyebrows. She forged that newer one. I've seen these kinds of loving takeovers before. Happens more than you'd think. Can we fight it? Yes. But it has to be soon. She's moving fast because she knows what she's doing is shaky. Once you're declared legally incompetent, it gets harder. I'm not incompetent, I said. Exactly, he smiled. So let's prove that. He helped me write a legal revocation letter. He backed it up with the original paperwork and my medical records. We sent it by registered mail to Camila's lawyer and my bank. Then he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. She may be your daughter, but right now, she's treating you like a transaction. That night, I cried. Not because I was scared, but because I realized something was dying inside me. Not my body, not my mind, but the dream I had that family meant safety. That blood meant love. That dream was fading. But I wasn't. Not yet. The next morning, she showed up. Not alone, with her husband, Daniel. Both of them walked into my apartment without knocking, holding grocery bags like everything was normal. Hi, Mom, Camila said brightly. We brought some things for you. I just stared at them. My chest still hurt, but it wasn't my heart condition this time. It was something else. Something heavier. Daniel put the bags on the counter. We got chamomile tea and some soup. Thought you could use some comfort food. I looked at Camila. Her eyes were soft, like she was trying to be sweet. But I wasn't fooled. I had read the lawyer's letter. I had spoken to the bank. I knew what she was doing behind my back. Still, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just asked quietly, "Why did you close my bank account?" She blinked, caught off guard. Because, Mom, you don't need to worry about all that now. You have us. Us. Like I was a child again. Like I hadn't raised her. Like I hadn't worked my fingers raw to feed her. You could have just asked, I said. I'm not sick in the head. I know how to handle my own money. It's not about that, she said gently, sitting beside me. It's about protecting you. You're not alone anymore. Let us take care of you. But I wasn't asking for care. I was asking for respect. I looked down at my hands. They were thin, wrinkled, but steady. Taking care of me means helping, not taking control. Daniel stepped in. Your bank account had unusual activity. We thought someone might be taking advantage of you. Someone is, I said. You. Camila flinched. That's not fair. No, I whispered. It's not. She stood up and started pacing. Look, Mom. I get it. You're scared. It's hard to let go of independence. But honestly, you've done enough. Let us handle the hard stuff now. Let go? Done enough? I felt my throat tighten. Camila, I said slowly. I still pay my own bills. I still cook. I still remember everything. You canceled my surgery and took my money without asking me. That's not helping. That's erasing me. We're just trying to keep you from making mistakes. The only mistake was trusting you to protect me. There was silence in the room. Then Camila sat back down and took my hand. You raised me to be strong, Mom. And I'm using that strength now to make the right choices for you. Even if you don't like it. I pulled my hand away. Then you weren't listening when I raised you. They left a few minutes later. The groceries sat untouched on the counter. I threw them away. That night, I received a text from her. You don't need to worry about money anymore. We'll handle everything from now on. Just focus on resting and letting us love you. But it didn't feel like love. It felt like a takeover. The next day, I went to the small flower shop at the end of my street. The owner, Mr. Alves, had known me for years. He looked surprised to see me. Should you be out, Dona Helena? I needed to walk, I said. And I needed to pay in cash. I picked out a few lilies, my favorite. When I pulled out a 50 real note, he shook his head. Your daughter already paid for the week. I stared at him. What? She came by yesterday. Said you weren't feeling well and might be confused sometimes. She left money for your flowers. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Camila was going around town telling people I was confused, that I wasn't myself. I wasn't just being erased. I was being rewritten. When I got home, I opened the drawer where I kept my personal papers. Camila had organized it for me last week. I never thought to double-check. Now I did. And I saw it. The envelope with Jorge's land title was missing. Gone. I called Lucia, my sister. She's taking everything, I said. Then it's time to fight. We drove to Raphael's office again. He looked over the new documents I brought, especially the missing land title. She's not just taking your rights, Helena. She's setting you up to look incompetent. So if this goes to court, they'll say you're paranoid. That you're forgetful. I'm not. Exactly. That's why we need to act before she takes the rest. We filed a legal challenge to the power of attorney. Raphael added in the original document I had given to Lucia years ago, and the voice recording of Camila talking about taking control. He gave me a choice. We can file quietly and hope she backs down, or we can make this public. Let the courts decide. Public, I said without hesitation. I wasn't hiding anymore. A few days later, Camila came back. Alone this time. She stood at my doorway with a bag of oranges. "Mom," she said softly, "why are you doing this?" I looked at her, truly looked at her. She was still my daughter. But the girl I raised, the one who used to ask for bedtime stories and hide behind my skirts, she wasn't there anymore. "Because I'm still here," I said. "And I refuse to be invisible in my own life." She stepped inside, shutting the door behind her. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," I said. "You did that when you took what wasn't yours." She sighed, almost annoyed. "You don't need money, Mom. You have us." "Then why did you need my money so badly?" I asked. She said nothing. I realized then. This wasn't about my safety. This wasn't about love. It was about control. About power. About greed. The kind that dresses itself in concern and care. I waited until she left. Then I pulled out my small notebook, the one I used to keep track of memories. I opened to a new page and wrote. She says I don't need money, because I have them. But I only had them, until they took everything. The next chapter of my life was starting. And this time, I was going to write it myself. The knock came early. I was still in my robe, holding my second cup of tea, trying to breathe through the pain in my chest, not just from the missed surgery, but from everything else they had taken. Camila stood at the door with Daniel again. But this time, they weren't holding groceries. They were holding moving boxes. "Good morning, Mom," she said brightly, as if everything was normal. "Why are you here?" I asked, already fearing the answer. Daniel stepped forward and smiled like it was a favor. "We're moving you into our house today." I just stood there. "What?" Camila nodded and walked in, like it was already decided. "You'll be safer with us. You don't need to live alone anymore. We've already made space for you. You'll love it." They started walking around my apartment like it was theirs. Daniel picked up my books and set them in the boxes. Camila opened my drawers. I hadn't said yes. I hadn't agreed. But they didn't care. "I'm not going anywhere," I said quietly but firmly. Camila looked up and smiled. "Yes, you are. The doctor said it's not safe for you to live alone. And we're your family. We're doing what's best." I walked over and took the book Daniel had just packed. "I don't need you to pack my life like it's garbage. I've lived here for 23 years. "Exactly," Daniel said. "It's time for a change. A fresh start. Fresh." Everything about this felt like being erased. Again, I looked Camila in the eye. "Where exactly would I stay in your house?" She smiled. "The guest room. We turned it into a lovely space, soft lighting, calming colors, everything you love." But I knew that room. It had no windows, no lock on the inside, no space for my things. It was never meant for comfort. It was meant for silence. "I won't go," I said again. Camila sighed and stepped closer. "Mom, this isn't a debate. You're vulnerable. If something happens to you alone, we'll be blamed. Then let me sign a release. Let me live. Let me decide." "You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than you." I walked into the bedroom and shut the door. They didn't follow. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of boxes being taped and more drawers opening. They were packing my things anyway. I opened the closet and pulled out a bag I had prepared just 2 nights earlier, after I spoke to Raphael and Lucia. Inside were all my important papers, the flash drive, my IDs, and a prepaid phone I had hidden just in case. I called Lucia. "They're here," I whispered, trying to move me out. "I'm 5 minutes away," she said. "Don't open that door again." Lucia arrived like a storm. She didn't knock, just walked in and stood between me and my daughter like a shield. "That's enough," she said. "Put the boxes down." Daniel raised his hands. "We're just trying to help." "No, you're not," Lucia snapped. "You're trying to take. And you've done enough damage already." Camila tried to speak, but Lucia cut her off. "You canceled her surgery, froze her accounts, forged her proxy documents. And now you want to lock her in a back room like she's some kind of burden? She's not safe alone." Camila shouted. "And she's not safe with you," Lucia said. "She trusted you. You took that trust and used it like a weapon." I stood behind Lucia, tears running down my face. My hands were shaking, but I felt stronger than I had in weeks. Camila's voice cracked. I just wanted to take care of you, Mom. Then why did you shut me out of my own life? I asked. She said nothing, because she knew. Raphael arrived an hour later, carrying court papers. He handed them to Camila in front of all of us. These are an official revocation of your power of attorney, he said. As of today, Helena Duarte is legally and medically in control of her own life again. And I suggest you leave before we file for elder abuse. Daniel laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. No, Raphael said. What's ridiculous is thinking a woman who raised a daughter on her own for 30 years suddenly can't choose where to live or what to do with her money. Camila looked at me one last time. You'll regret this. I met her eyes. I already regret raising someone who thinks love means control. They left, with empty boxes, and full guilt. That night, I sat on my couch beside Lucia. My apartment was a little messier now. Some drawers were open. My tea had gone cold again. But I was home. In my space. With my choices. I picked up my notebook again. And I wrote. They told me I'd be safer with them. But I've never felt more in danger than when I was no longer allowed to speak. Now my voice is loud, even if it shakes. I hadn't seen Camila for 2 weeks after she and Daniel left my apartment with their empty boxes and full anger. But she wasn't quiet. She didn't stop calling my neighbors. She didn't stop sending messages to my doctor. And she didn't stop painting a picture of me that wasn't true. A picture of an old, confused woman who couldn't take care of herself. It started with little things. My pharmacist suddenly asked if I needed help organizing my pills. The landlord called and said someone reported strange behavior in my building. Even my church friend Mariana asked me, very gently, if I had considered assisted living. Why are people saying these things? I asked her. I don't know, she said. But Camila came to Bible group last week. She said you've been having memory slips. Memory slips? I was the one who taught Camila how to tie her shoes. I was the one who remembered every birthday in our family without a calendar. I was the one who never forgot to pay a bill, never lost a key, never missed a doctor's appointment. But now they believed her. Because I was older. Because I had gray hair. Because I didn't shout when she stole from me. I stayed quiet and calm. And now they used my quiet as proof that I was confused. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at a cup of tea I didn't even remember making. Maybe that's what she was counting on. Not that I was confused, but that I would eventually question myself. Maybe she wanted me to doubt my own thoughts. To wonder if I really had lost a step. If I really had imagined some of this. That scared me more than anything. The next morning, I got a knock at the door. It wasn't Camila. It was a woman named Beatriz, from the social services office. We received a report from your daughter, she said kindly. She's concerned about your mental state and daily living conditions. My mental state is fine, I said, and my apartment is clean. She looked around, making notes on a clipboard. Do you ever forget to take your medications? No. Have you fallen in the past 6 months? Once. Slipped in the bathroom. I called my neighbor and cleaned the floor myself. She nodded. Then came the question I dreaded. Do you feel your daughter has your best interests at heart? I looked her straight in the eye. I think my daughter has her interests at heart. Not mine. She didn't respond. Just wrote more. That evening, I called Lucia. They sent a social worker. What? Camila told them I'm confused. That I might be a danger to myself. Lucia didn't speak for a moment. Helena, this isn't about care anymore. She's trying to build a case. She wants guardianship. She wants control. Exactly. And she's using your age as evidence. The next day, I met with Raphael again. He asked me a series of questions. Dates. Memories. Tasks. Basic knowledge. I answered every one of them correctly. You're sharp, he said. No court will believe otherwise if we document this now. He scheduled an official evaluation with a certified geriatric psychologist. I went to the appointment alone. Answered every question with patience and calm. The psychologist smiled at me. You're not confused, Ms. Duarte, she said. You're clear and composed. Then why does everyone believe I'm not? I asked. She looked down. Because unfortunately, once someone says the word confused, especially when you're older, people listen. Even when it's a lie. That night, I got a call from Camila. I almost didn't answer. But something in me needed to hear her voice. Hi, Mom, she said. What do you want, Camila? I heard about the evaluation. That was unnecessary. No, I said. What's unnecessary is you telling people I've lost my mind. She was quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. You are old, Mom. And yes, you are confused, even if you can't admit it. I felt like she slapped me through the phone. Camila, I remember the day you were born. The smell of the hospital blanket. The way your fingers curled around mine. I remember how you cried when your dad died, how you refused to eat for 3 days. I remember every sacrifice I made for you. That's not confusion. That's motherhood. Silence. Then she said, You're not the same anymore. No, I said, I'm stronger. I hung up. The next morning I made a list. A real, physical list with my handwriting of all the things I still do on my own. Cook. Take medicine. Manage appointments. Pay bills when I have access. Write letters. Read books. Water the plants. Keep a journal. Take walks. Use the internet. Defend myself. I hung it on the fridge. Just in case I ever forgot, not who I was, but who they wanted me to become. That week, I attended a local seniors self-advocacy workshop Lucia found. I sat with 8 other women, all with similar stories. One had a niece who tried to take her house. Another had a son who took her car for safety and never returned it. One woman said quietly, They love us until we become inconvenient. I left the room with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not sadness. Fire. Camila called again that weekend. This time, she didn't pretend to be sweet. You're making this ugly, Mom. I tried to protect you. But if you want to fight, fine. Just remember who the world believes, the young lawyer with resources or the old woman who talks to plants. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she was scared. She knew I wasn't going to sit still anymore. Talk to my plants, I said. At least they listen. That night, I updated my will. Changed my emergency contacts. Transferred the land title out of reach. And left a note in my safe. If they say I'm confused, read my words. If they say I'm weak, check my steps. If they say I'm lost, just look at how far I've come without them. Her name was Clara. She wasn't just my nurse. She was my friend. Clara had been coming to my apartment twice a week for almost a year. She helped me with blood pressure checks, meal planning, and gave me reminders to stay hydrated. She didn't just care for my body, she listened to me. She laughed with me. She never rushed. When my husband Jorge passed away, it was Clara who brought me soup. When I fell once and bruised my hip, it was Clara who helped me shower, carefully and kindly. And when Camila started treating me like a patient and not a person, Clara was the only one who looked me in the eyes and said, You're still in charge of your life. So when she didn't show up on Monday morning, no call, no message, I worried. Not because I thought something happened to her. Because I knew who had stopped her from coming. I called her cell. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No reply. By afternoon, I couldn't sit still. I called the clinic she worked for. A woman answered the phone. Clara Mendez no longer works with your case, Ms. Duarte, she said. Her file has been updated with a discharge note. A discharge? I asked. I didn't discharge her. Well, it was requested by your daughter. As your medical proxy. I held the phone tight. She's not my medical proxy anymore. I'm sorry, but we only have the paperwork your daughter submitted on file. If something has changed, we'll need legal proof. I hung up and stood completely still in the middle of my kitchen. She did it again. She went behind my back and took away the one person who checked on me, helped me, and treated me like a human being. That night, Lucia came over. I didn't speak. I just handed her the tea and sat down. She removed Clara, I said finally. Said I don't need her anymore. Lucia didn't even look surprised. She's isolating you, Helena. That's how it starts. But I already won in court. I took back my power of attorney. Raphael filed the papers. She's not playing by legal rules anymore. She's playing dirty. She's using old files, old systems. Wherever the updates didn't reach yet, she still controls them. I felt exhausted. I thought getting the papers back meant the nightmare was ending. But it was just starting a new phase. The next morning, I went to Clara's clinic in person. The front desk nurse blinked when she saw me. Oh, Ms. Duarte. Yes, I said. I need to speak with Clara. She looked uncomfortable. I'm afraid she's not allowed to speak to you. I'm not asking permission, I said. I'm asking where. Another nurse leaned over. She's on her lunch break in the garden courtyard. I walked outside and found Clara sitting under a tree, eating rice from a plastic container. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Ms. Helena, why didn't you call me? I asked. She stood up and hugged me gently. They said I wasn't allowed. They made it look like I was overstepping. Your daughter told the clinic you were showing signs of mental instability and that I was giving you ideas. Ideas? Like standing up for yourself. Like questioning decisions. I felt my throat tighten. You were the only one who listened to me, I whispered. I know, she said. And that's why they removed me. She handed me a folded piece of paper. I saved a copy of the cancellation notice. It was signed with your daughter's name, but no legal stamp. No stamp, which means she did it privately, through influence, not law. I took the paper and held her hand. Will you still help me? I asked. Clara smiled. Always. I'll come after hours. They can't stop me then. From that day on, Clara came at night, not in uniform, just as a friend. She brought warm soup. She helped me change my bandages. She told me stories about her own mother, who lived in the countryside and raised 7 children with nothing but strength. You remind me of her, Clara said once. Stubborn. Fierce. Brave. I smiled, but inside I felt the storm building. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Another one from Camila's lawyer. Due to ongoing concerns regarding your health and recent contact with a nurse outside of clinic supervision, we will be filing a motion for conservatorship. A conservatorship. It meant full legal control over my life. Not just medical. Not just financial. Everything. I showed the letter to Raphael. He rubbed his forehead and sighed. She's trying to push the court into thinking you're a danger to yourself. But I have the evaluation report. I have proof. That's good. But she has influence. And she's playing the long game. Then I need to show them I'm not just alive, I said. I'm awake. We put together everything. The fake discharge notice. The court-approved medical proxy naming Lucia. Clara's witness statement. My psychological evaluation. My personal journal. Text messages from Camila with subtle threats. Photos of my apartment, clean, organized, normal. Raphael filed a response. If she wants to fight, he said, we'll meet her in court again. That night, Clara came over again. I made her tea this time. We sat quietly for a while. Then she asked me something. Why do you think she's doing this? I looked at my hands. Because I raised her to succeed. I raised her to fight. I just never thought she'd use those skills against me. But I wasn't done fighting. She thought taking away Clara would make me weak. But it made me something else. Focused. I wrote in my notebook that night. They say I'm confused, but I see everything clearly. They say I'm weak, but I'm still standing. And if they say I'm alone, they forgot that even one strong woman can shake a system built on silence. I was sitting in my living room when it happened. A sharp knock on the door. 3 quick bangs. Not like Lucia, not like Clara. This knock came with purpose. With pressure. I opened the door and found a young man in a suit standing outside. He looked no older than 25. Mrs. Helena Duarte, he asked politely. Yes. I'm from Nova Real Estate Services. I'm here to finalize the inspection of the apartment you've agreed to vacate. I blinked. What? He checked his clipboard. According to the signed documents, this unit is now under transition for sale. The property title has been transferred to Camila Duarte and Daniel Nascimento as of last month. They're listed as your legal representatives. The room spun for a second. My knees weakened, and I leaned on the door frame. That's not possible, I whispered. I can show you the papers, he offered. He pulled out a folder and handed it to me. I flipped through the pages with shaking hands. There was my full name, my address, and a signature at the bottom. A signature that looked like mine. But it wasn't. I looked up at him. Where did you get this signature? It was provided by Ms. Camila Duarte, he said. She said you signed everything while recovering from a recent medical issue. I closed the door slowly, not even saying goodbye. I sat on the floor, holding the folder in my lap, staring at that fake signature. I knew my own handwriting. I knew how I curled my R's, how I slanted the L in Helena. This was not me. She had forged it. Lucia came over 20 minutes later. I didn't say a word, just handed her the folder. She flipped through the pages, her face hardening. This is fraud, she said. And she thinks you're too tired to notice. She's trying to sell the apartment, Lucia, I said. The place I raised her. The home Jorge left for me. Lucia placed the folder on the table. Then we stop her. We expose this. We called Raphael, my lawyer. He came by that evening. He examined the documents carefully. This is dangerous, he said. If she's bold enough to forge real estate documents, She may have already done it with other assets. Like the land from Jorge's will? I asked. Exactly. He opened his laptop and began checking public records. And there it was. Jorge's land, the small piece near the coast he left in my name, had also been transferred. The date of transfer was only a week after Camila canceled my surgery. And again, the signature was mine. I felt sick. Everything I had built, everything I had protected. Piece by piece, she had taken it with ink and lies. She wasn't just taking control. She was erasing me from my own life, legally. The next morning, I got a call from her. I was surprised she dared to call at all. "Hi, Mom," she said. "I heard you talk to that agent. I hope you're not upset." I didn't answer. She continued. "You did sign those papers, remember? We talked about it after your fall. You said you didn't want to deal with anything anymore." My blood ran cold. "I never said that. You might not remember," she said sweetly. "But you did. We even had tea afterward. I never signed anything." Her voice changed. Sharper now. "Well, the papers say you did. And they've already been filed." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I found my voice. "You forged my name. Or maybe," she said calmly, "you're just old and confused again." She hung up. I sat in silence for a long time after that. The words repeated in my head. "You signed everything to us. Remember? It wasn't just a lie. It was a trap. A trap designed to make me question my own memory. If I hadn't kept copies of my documents, if I hadn't trusted Lucia, if I had doubted myself for even a second, I would have lost everything." Raphael filed an emergency injunction the same day. He submitted the original documents, the real ones with verified dates and my known signature. He attached a report from a handwriting analyst who reviewed both signatures. "This is forgery," the analyst confirmed. "Very close, but not her true hand." While we waited for the court to respond, Clara came by with groceries. She noticed the stress on my face. "You look tired," she said gently. "They tried to take my apartment," I told her, "and said I gave it to them willingly." She sat down next to me, quietly holding my hand. "You are not crazy, Helena," she whispered. "You are not weak. This isn't confusion. It's clarity, and that scares them." 2 days later, Camila showed up at my apartment unannounced. She came in holding her phone. "You're making this harder than it has to be." "So are you," I said calmly. "You did sign those documents." "No," I said. "You did. And badly." I handed her a copy of the handwriting analyst's report. Her face changed. She laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous. You're using my aunt and some sketchy lawyer to turn this into a fight." "No," I said, standing. "You turned it into a fight when you decided my life wasn't mine anymore." She walked toward the door and stopped. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. "I already do," I replied. "But not for the reason you think." That night, I opened my notebook again and wrote. They told me I signed it. They told me I forgot. But what they forgot is, I still remember everything, especially who I raised, and what I've now lost. I wasn't going to lose another inch of my life. The papers she forged were going to become the rope that unraveled her plan. I never thought I'd hear those words from my daughter. But I did. She stood in my living room, arms crossed, not angry, not sad, but calm, like someone explaining something very normal. Something already decided. "This is what families do, Mom," she said. "We take control when it's needed." I looked at her face. The same face I used to kiss goodnight. The same eyes that once looked up at me with trust. Now those eyes look down at me with pity. "You don't need to worry about papers or bills or property. That's not your world anymore. Let us handle it." I stared at her for a long time before answering. "My world doesn't end because I'm older." She shook her head. "It's not about age. It's about responsibility. You're stressed. You're forgetting things." I haven't forgotten anything except what it felt like to have a daughter who respected me. She smiled, a soft, fake smile, and sat on the couch like this was a casual chat. "Mom, look at it from my side. You've been acting emotional. You're holding on to things that don't matter anymore. They matter to me, but your feelings aren't enough to stop this process." I blinked. "Process? The conservatorship hearing," she said. "It's already in motion. You'll have a chance to speak, of course, but I really suggest you don't fight it. It'll just make you look more unstable." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "You're telling me to stay quiet, so they'll believe you're protecting me?" "Exactly." I stood up, walked to the window, tried to calm my hands, which had begun to shake. "When did you stop seeing me as your mother?" She looked confused. I still see you as my mother. No, I said. You see me as a problem. A project. A file to manage. You're exaggerating. Then why are you trying to control my home, my nurse, my money, my surgery, my doctor, my land? She didn't respond. The silence between us was louder than anything either of us could say. Finally, she stood up and brushed invisible dust off her pants. This isn't personal, Mom. This is just responsibility. We're doing what families do. After she left, I sat at the dining table and just breathed. Clara came over that evening. I told her everything. She looked heartbroken. That's not what families do, she said. Families lift you, not lock you down. Lucia called too. Raphael had spoken to the court. The conservatorship hearing had been quietly scheduled for the following week. No letter, no warning. Camila had planned it that way. To trap me. To catch me off guard. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't confused. I was ready. I spent the next few days with Raphael preparing everything. Medical records showing I was mentally sound. Voice recordings from calls with Camila. Text messages where she admitted taking over. The handwriting expert's letter. Clara's affidavit. My journal entries dated, clear, consistent. The revoked power of attorney, fully notarized. But that wasn't all. I wrote a statement, a personal one, not legal, not cold, but honest. Something from my heart. I practiced it every night in the mirror, even when my voice trembled. Because I knew they wouldn't just listen to documents. They needed to hear me. The day of the hearing, I wore my late husband's scarf, not for warmth but strength. He used to say, "Let them underestimate you. It makes your truth hit harder." Lucia drove me. Clara came too. We walked into the courtroom together. And there she was. Camila. Wearing gray. Smiling like she had already won. Daniel sat beside her, whispering something in her ear. When she saw me walk in, standing tall, carrying my own files, her smile faded. Just a little. The judge was calm. Old. Wise-looking. He asked me if I knew why we were here. Yes, I said. My daughter is trying to take away my voice and call it protection. He asked if I had representation. Yes, I said. But I also have my truth. Camila spoke first. She was smooth. Sweet. Spoke about her love for me. About her concern. About episodes of forgetfulness. About how confused I'd sounded on the phone. How I was easily manipulated by others. She ended with this. This is what families do, Your Honor. We step in when our loved ones can't see they need help. Then it was my turn. I stood up slowly. Walked to the front. Looked the judge in the eyes. Your Honor, I said. I am not confused. I am heartbroken. Not because I'm sick, I'm not. But because my daughter has decided that growing older means becoming invisible. I took out a small envelope. Pulled out a photo. Camila at 5 years old, sitting on my lap. This girl once told me I was her favorite person in the world. Now she says I'm unstable because I ask questions. Now she says I'm forgetful because I cry. Now she says I'm confused. Because I don't agree. I handed over documents, one by one. The judge read. Listened. Nodded. Raphael spoke calmly, clearly, adding legal backing to everything. When I sat down again, I felt lighter. The judge took a long moment. Then he said, there is no evidence of cognitive decline. No justification for removing autonomy. This court denies the conservatorship request and issues a warning against further legal interference without cause. Mrs. Duarte remains fully independent. Camila didn't look at me when it ended. She left the room in silence. Daniel followed her. Fast. I walked out with Lucia and Clara. The sun was out. The air felt lighter. Later that night, I wrote in my notebook. They said this is what families do, take control. But real families do something else. They stand beside you. They trust you. And if they love you, they listen. It had been a long week. After everything Camila did, selling my stocks, forging documents, pretending to care while stealing from me, I was finally starting to feel the weight of it all in my bones. Not because I was tired, but because it's exhausting to fight someone you once held in your arms. Lucia kept checking on me. Clara brought food, fresh towels, small gifts to cheer me up. And Raphael, he was helping with the police case, making sure the fraud charges were official. I was trying to move forward, slow, steady, until the phone rang. It was the clinic. A woman I didn't recognize said, "Hello, Ms. Helena Duarte. This is Clara Medeiros, replacement nurse. You're scheduled for your new doctor's visit tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I blinked. New doctor? Yes. Dr. Leandro Toledo. You've been reassigned. He'll be taking over your primary care starting this week. I didn't ask for a new doctor, I said. And Clara is not replaced. She still works with me. There was a pause. According to our file, she's been removed. This change was requested by your daughter. My heart started pounding. My daughter has no legal right to speak for me anymore, I said firmly. She was removed months ago. That file is out of date. Oh, I wasn't aware, the woman said quietly. Let me double-check and get back to you. I hung up the phone and sat down slowly. She was still trying, even after the court hearing, even after being caught forging signatures, even after being exposed for stealing. She wasn't done. That night, Clara came over. She looked angry the second I opened the door. I just got a warning from my supervisor, she said. Apparently, there was a concern that I was interfering with your care plan. Let me guess, I said. Camila again. Clara nodded. She called the clinic pretending to be your medical proxy. She even submitted a fake letter with your signature, saying you approved the doctor switch. They believed it? Not once I showed them the real documents, Clara said proudly. But if I hadn't been there, they would have transferred you to a doctor she controls. Lucia came over later. We all sat at the kitchen table and talked. She's still trying to gain control, Lucia said. First it was surgery, then money, then your apartment, then your stocks. Now she wants my health. Yes, Clara said. She knows if she can control your medical records, she can try again in court. Say you're declining. Say you're unstable. It all made sense now. This new doctor wasn't a medical choice. It was part of a plan. A slow, careful trap. If she couldn't take my life in one big move, she'd do it in small pieces. One paper at a time. One signature at a time. One lie at a time. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about Camila as a little girl, brushing her hair in front of the mirror, using my lipstick when she thought I wasn't looking. Do I look like a grown-up, Mommy? She used to play pretend. Now, she wasn't pretending anymore. She was playing real with real consequences. The next morning, I received a delivery. A folder hand-delivered, marked Urgent Private. Inside was a packet from the clinic. Appointment confirmation. Patient history summary. A treatment plan I had never agreed to. And at the bottom, a signature. My name, but not in my handwriting. I called Raphael. She's trying to make it look like I'm mentally declining again, I said. If she can get a doctor to write it down, she'll try to reopen the conservatorship case. Raphael agreed. We'll report the false signature. And we'll alert the judge immediately. That afternoon, I asked Lucia to drive me to the clinic. I walked up to the front desk, folder in hand. The receptionist smiled. Can I help you? Yes, I said calmly. I'm here to cancel an appointment I never made, with a doctor I never chose, approved by a signature I never wrote. She blinked. I handed her the documents. You've been given false records, I said. And I'm not leaving until you correct them. After a long conversation with the clinic director, with Raphael on speakerphone, they agreed to remove all recent changes. My records were restored. Clara was reinstated. And Camila's name was permanently removed from my file. But even after all that, I didn't feel safe. Because if she could do this from outside my home, from behind a desk, what else could she try? What was next? That night, I sat in my bedroom looking through old photos. Camila at her 8th grade graduation. Camila holding Jorge's hand at the beach. Camila smiling beside me on her wedding day. I wasn't confused. I remembered all of it. But now those memories felt different. Not ruined, just heavier. I opened my notebook and wrote. She tried to give me a new doctor. She tried to control what goes into my body. But she forgot. I'm still here. Still writing. Still fighting. Still me. It had been a long week. After everything Camila did, selling my stocks, forging documents, pretending to care while stealing from me, I was finally starting to feel the weight of it all in my bones. Not because I was tired, but because it's exhausting to fight someone you once held in your arms. Lucia kept checking on me. Clara brought food, fresh towels, small gifts to cheer me up. And Raphael, he was helping with the police case, making sure the fraud charges were official. I was trying to move forward, slow, steady, until the phone rang. It was the clinic. A woman I didn't recognize said, "Hello, Ms. Helena Duarte. This is Clara Medeiros' replacement nurse. You're scheduled for your new doctor's visit tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I blinked. New doctor? Yes, Dr. Leandro Toledo. You've been reassigned. He'll be taking over your primary care starting this week. I didn't ask for a new doctor, I said. And Clara is not replaced. She still works with me. There was a pause. According to our file, she's been removed. This change was requested by your daughter. My heart started pounding. My daughter has no legal right to speak for me anymore, I said firmly. She was removed months ago. That file is out of date. Oh, I wasn't aware, the woman said quietly. Let me double-check and get back to you. I hung up the phone and sat down slowly. She was still trying, even after the court hearing, even after being caught forging signatures, even after being exposed for stealing. She wasn't done. That night, Clara came over. She looked angry the second I opened the door. I just got a warning from my supervisor, she said. Apparently, there was a concern that I was interfering with your care plan. Let me guess, I said. Camila again. Clara nodded. She called the clinic pretending to be your medical proxy. She even submitted a fake letter with your signature, saying you approved the doctor switch. They believed it? Not once I showed them the real documents, Clara said proudly. But if I hadn't been there, they would have transferred you to a doctor she controls. Lucia came over later. We all sat at the kitchen table and talked. She's still trying to gain control, Lucia said. First it was surgery, then money, then your apartment, then your stocks. Now she wants my health. Yes, Clara said. She knows if she can control your medical records, she can try again in court. Say you're declining. Say you're unstable. It all made sense now. This new doctor wasn't a medical choice. It was part of a plan. A slow, careful trap. If she couldn't take my life in one big move, she'd do it in small pieces. One paper at a time. One signature at a time. One lie at a time. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about Camila as a little girl, brushing her hair in front of the mirror, using my lipstick when she thought I wasn't looking. Do I look like a grown-up, Mommy? She used to play pretend. Now, she wasn't pretending anymore. She was playing real with real consequences. The next morning, I received a delivery. A folder hand-delivered, marked Urgent Private. Inside was a packet from the clinic. Appointment confirmation. Patient history summary. A treatment plan I had never agreed to. And at the bottom, a signature. My name, but not in my handwriting. I called Raphael. She's trying to make it look like I'm mentally declining again, I said. If she can get a doctor to write it down, she'll try to reopen the conservatorship case. Raphael agreed. We'll report the false signature. And we'll alert the judge immediately. That afternoon, I asked Lucia to drive me to the clinic. I walked up to the front desk, folder in hand. The receptionist smiled. Can I help you? Yes, I said calmly. I'm here to cancel an appointment I never made with a doctor I never chose, approved by a signature I never wrote. She blinked. I handed her the documents. You've been given false records, I said. And I'm not leaving until you correct them. After a long conversation with the clinic director, with Raphael on speakerphone, they agreed to remove all recent changes. My records were restored. Clara was reinstated, and Camila's name was permanently removed from my file. But even after all that, I didn't feel safe, because if she could do this from outside my home, from behind a desk, what else could she try? What was next? That night, I sat in my bedroom looking through old photos. Camila at her 8th grade graduation. Camila holding Jorge's hand at the beach. Camila smiling beside me on her wedding day. I wasn't confused. I remembered all of it. But now those memories felt different. Not ruined, just heavier. I opened my notebook and wrote. She tried to give me a new doctor. She tried to control what goes into my body. But she forgot. I'm still here. Still writing. Still fighting. Still me. The sun was shining through the curtains the morning I got the letter. It came in a white envelope with gold trim, the kind you only see for weddings or endings. It was from my lawyer, Raphael. The letter said, "You are invited to the formal reading of Jorge Duarte's final updated will." My heart skipped a beat. Jorge had passed away nearly 7 years ago. I thought everything had already been handled, the house, the land, the savings. We did all the paperwork back then quietly, with respect. But now a second will? I called Raphael. What is this? I asked. Another will? Yes, he said. Jorge made a new one before he passed, but he asked that it not be opened until certain legal triggers were met. Like what? Like someone trying to claim what wasn't theirs. I felt a chill run down my spine. Camila. The reading was set for Friday morning. At the office where Jorge used to go for tax filings. Small. Quiet. Familiar. Lucia came with me. Clara too. We didn't speak much in the car. But I could feel it. Something final was about to happen. When we arrived, Camila and Daniel were already there. She wore dark sunglasses indoors. She didn't speak to me. Didn't even glance in my direction. Daniel whispered something in her ear. She just nodded. I sat down straight-backed, in the chair beside Lucia. Raphael entered the room and cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. This is the official reading of the final will and testament of Jorge Duarte. He pulled out a document and began. To my wife, Helena Duarte, I leave full ownership of our apartment, all remaining shares, savings, and the coastal land. Camila's head twitched. To my daughter Camila Duarte, I leave one final gift. Everyone leaned in. Raphael read slowly. I leave you the truth. You've already taken too much. You've taken advantage of your mother's heart, her name, her money, and her peace. And yet, she still hoped you'd come back with love. But since you didn't, this is what's left. Camila's face turned pale. What is this? She said. Is this a joke? Raphael looked at her calmly. It's real. This will is dated and notarized 2 weeks before Jorge passed. And Helena had no knowledge of it until this month. He can't do that, Camila shouted. He did, I said quietly. She stood up. He loved me. I was his daughter. This isn't fair. Fair, I said softly. You forged my name, sold my stocks, tried to take my life away piece by piece. You laughed while stealing. And now you're talking about fair. Camila turned red. You're turning everyone against me. No, I said. You did that to yourself. She threw the folder she'd been holding on the floor and stormed out. Daniel followed, head down, silent. No one said a word for a long moment. Then Raphael smiled. Would you like a printed copy of the will, Helena? Yes, I said. For my notebook. Lucia hugged me as we walked out. Clara squeezed my hand. We didn't laugh. We didn't cheer. We just breathed. Because the storm had passed. That afternoon, I sat in my garden. The wind was soft. The roses were blooming. I opened Jorge's old box, the one he had left me before he died. Inside was a picture of the three of us. Jorge, Camila, and me. Smiling. Together. Whole. And I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I finally let go. She may never apologize. She may never return the kindness I gave. But that's no longer my burden to carry. I opened my notebook for the last time. And I wrote. She screamed at the will reading. But I didn't scream back. I smiled. Because I didn't win with anger. I won with truth. With quiet. With strength. And I'm not just a mother. Not just a widow. Not just a victim. I am whole again. And no one can take that from me.